Anjal Prakash, an expert on Hindu Kush Himalayas water system, is with us. Piyush Rautela is researcher and advisor and consultant on disaster risk reduction, former executive director at Disaster Mitigation and Management Center, also a government of Uttarakhand, and Colonel Ajay Kotial, who led the Kedarnath task force, is joining me at the moment. And I want to come to you, Colonel, first, because clearly when we look at these images, this seems to have become now a recurring phenomenon in the hills of the Himalayas. Last year, it was Himachal. This year, it's Uttarakhand. Once again, you were in charge of the Kedarnath task force when the previous terrible devastation took place in 2013. So you've had considerable experience. What's your first response to what you're seeing? Could this be minimized in any way, or is this a tragedy waiting to happen, given that these villages on the Himalayas, on the foothills, are so vulnerable to a cloudburst?
You see, Uttarakhand today has become prone to these small, or we can call it bigger in gravity also, these type of cloudburst related disasters. And the effect also depends on how much human density is existing there. Like in today's case, there was a small local festival also in that village, this area called Dharali. Dharali also happens to be, besides the religious importance of Gangotri Highway, it also happens to be a very scenic, beautiful place where a lot of attraction is because of the environment. Now, cloudburst is a phenomena which is happening in so many places in Uttarakhand. Unfortunately, we have to bear with it. Only thing we can do is prepare ourselves to become the responders, first responders, immediate responders, and thereafter carrying out rescue. So the good thing is that this has not happened at night. Had it happened at night, then there would have been more fiasco rather.
Let me go to Anjal Prakash. Anjal Prakash, as I said, we've been having frequent cloudbursts across the Himalayan region. We've also had devastating floods earlier this year in Mandi. Are you surprised with these kind of images that we are seeing at the moment? Are these areas particularly vulnerable at this time of the year? Have the frequency of these cloudbursts increased in your view?
See, I'm not surprised, Adi, because this is happening from last 5 to 6 years. The intensity and the severity of these disasters are actually, increasing day by day. Reports after reports, the IPCC report that I've been part of for a couple of years has been pointing this out, that there's going to be a wetter future in Himalayas, both the eastern and western Himalayan regions. So this is a known fact for all of us. The only thing which is actually not acceptable is the response. Response in a sense that the post-disaster response is very good, but the pre-disaster response, the planning that has to happen, that has been a problem, because after numerous such warnings, I do not see much of the changes which is happening at least at the planning level. Now let me just point out one or two things. Last year we had seen what has happened in Himachal. This year it's Uttarakhand. Year before that it was Sikkim. We have to understand that these are Himalayan regions are at a critical juncture of climate change. It is a very critical zone which requires attention. And that attention means that it has to be planned at a bioregional level, that has to be seen not from state to state perspective, but from a regional perspective. Numerous reports, as I told you, the recent report was ICMOD report, which has pointed out that these are risk zone areas. You must plan well, but it has gone deaf ears.
It's gone on deaf ears. Piyush Rautela, your first reactions to the kind of images that we are seeing. You're a disaster risk reduction expert. Many of these villages are built in and around the river, and then when there's a cloud burst, they become very vulnerable.
Yeah, Rajdeep, it's not the first time that this kind of incidences are happening in this region. The region had been witnessing this kind of incidences for ages. But our people, with their traditional wisdom and other kind of things, have been coping with this. But lately, we have, say, traditional knowledge has gone, and the government, when we say government, there is no political will to say have a strict kind of a policy for this kind of disasters because there are no electoral gains. At present, everything we do is for electoral gains. We don't have a debris disposal policy. We don't have a riverside कि कहाँ तक कितने में आपको बनाना है, कहाँ नहीं बनाना है.
जी.
So that is all the culmination of economic gains. And
I'll come to those, because obviously at the moment the focus, Piyush ji, is on the rescue operations. There is the larger question, of course, of how vulnerable they remain. Just let me go back to Captain Kotial. As someone who was involved in that Kedarnath task force, what for you is the biggest challenge for the rescue teams now? Nightfall is upon us. Is it going to become now more and more difficult for those rescue operations, or will the rescue have to now wait till the morning, Captain?
See, what we have to understand is the terrain. The terrain in these type of mountainous areas, it is generally mountains on two sides of the region, a river flowing in between, and the main artery, the main say movement which take place is on a main road, which is either on the left or the right side of the river. Now, in this specific case, Uttarkashi is the township from where the valley starts. When we go to this Gangotri side, so around 20-25 kilometers short of Gangotri is this place where this incident has taken place. When a cloudburst is happening, like in this case, around 1 kilometers as a crow fly distance from the place where this incident has happened, there are two other cloudbursts which have taken place, which is now we are getting informed about it. This incident is, say, on the right side of the river. On the left also, there is another small rivulet sort of feature which is coming down, a re-entrant sort of thing, where again this cloudburst effect has taken place.
So actually, that's the worry, of course, that so little details emerging at this moment. But Anjal Prakash, to a final word from you. I mean, are we now therefore going to see this as an annual phenomenon in these areas unless we get real, as was also pointed out by Mr. Rautela, that we need to get real about just how are we going to, in some way, find a disaster mitigation program for the entire Himalayan range?
Exactly the point, Rajdeep, that we have to see beyond this one incident that has happened, but we also have dot of dots which has to be combined together and understand that this is a disaster in the making. We have to see the entire region of Himalayan region in one understanding, in a sense of that we have to have a very robust planning, a very different types of development processes required there, and also what we call the nature-based solution has to prevail, which has been in the past and which we have probably have lost in the way. One more point I would also like to point out is about institutional response to this process, right? So you see the nodal Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Climate change is one of the kind of sideline items in the ministry. It has to be, and I've been telling this for a long time, that we have to carve out a special Ministry of Climate Change looking at the kind of disaster that has, and that ministry has to coordinate among all other ministries, because now this is becoming a headline news. It is becoming page one news, and that's where also that we have to evolve institutionally, which we have not done, unfortunately.
I'm going to leave it there at the moment. As I said, still details are coming out of the scale of the devastation, particularly that army camp, which is a concern in one part of Uttarakhand where we're not getting enough information out. All we know is at least 10 Jawans are missing. But to all my guests for joining me on that developing story from Uttarkashi, thank you very much.